Hi boys and girls, welcome to Chapter 12, Lesson 2. After this lesson, you're going to know what histograms are and you're going to know how to create and describe histograms. A histogram is a type of bar graph, so let's just get right started with our definition. A histogram is a type of bar graph used to display numerical data organized into equal intervals. To display numerical data organized into equal intervals. Okay, so that's the definition of a histogram. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that because that's our big idea for this lesson. And in the definition, I'm going to highlight a couple big ideas. It's a type of bar graph. So most of you know what a bar graph is. It's a type of a bar graph used to display numerical data organized into equal intervals. That's another key part to being a histogram. And we'll take a look at what that means specifically in just a little bit when we build one. One more definition that I want you to know is called a frequency distribution. So, a couple of big words. A frequency distribution. Frequency you can think of as how frequent something happens, and a distribution is another way you can think of a distribution as a set of data. So it's looking at how often stuff happens is really what a frequency distribution is. And the official definition is, we're going to write how many pieces of data are in each interval. How many pieces of data are in each interval. Okay, so that's another key definition for today. Frequency distribution. And again, we'll look at what a frequency distribution is when we build our example today that we're going to go through right now. Actually, before we do that, your hidden treasure today. Today's lesson's hidden treasure is the word opposites. In mathematics, what are opposites? So you need to define what opposites are and give an example. So in math, what are opposites? When you say two things are opposite, what does that mean? All right, hopefully you can answer that. When I pick who knows today's hidden treasure, you'll win something cool. All right, so example. We're going to look at a whole bunch of test scores, and we're going to build a histogram and a frequency distribution or a frequency table, and we're going to do that looking at a bunch of different test scores. So here we're going to record the data, then we're going to make a frequency table and then a histogram. And I think it'll make sense as we go through it. So our test scores, here they are. 72, there's a bunch of them. 72, 97, 80, 86, 92, 98, 88, 76, 79, 82, 91, 83, 90, 76, 81, 94, 96, 92, 72, 83, 85, 65, 91, 92, 68, 86, 89, and 97. So, whole bunch of data. 5 numbers in each row. So if I skip count 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28. I've got 28 test scores. So could be test scores for an entire class. 28 test scores. And from this data, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make a frequency table and a histogram. Okay, and then after we make the frequency table and the histogram, we're going to look at that and then we're going to describe the histogram. So these things are what you're going to be practicing today. Looking at a frequency table, from that making a histogram and describing the histogram. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a frequency table. So that's what this is. And I'm going to label this test scores. And the first thing when we're making our frequency table, I'm going to go back to these equal intervals. Okay, that's one of the big ideas to making a histogram is you've got to have equal intervals. So when I look at my data, I see I've got numbers in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 60s, and that looks like it. So from that, I'm going to come up with my intervals. So my numbers start in the 60s, so I can go from 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, and 90 to 99. Those would be good intervals to pick looking at my data. But the thing is, they've got to be equal. Okay, I cannot go from 60 to 65 and then from 66 up to 80. They have to count, the interval has to be the same. So on the frequency table, I'm going to write down the score. I'm also going to write down the tally for how many scores and the frequency. So underneath score, I'm going to write down my intervals. And I'm going to have 60 to 69. I am going to have 70 to 79, 80 to 89, and finally 90 to 99. So those are my scores. Looking at remember I got that from looking at my data. And again, these are the same intervals. They're all 10, from 60 to 69. Here's another 10, another 10, and another 10. So those have to be the same. The intervals have to be the same. Now here's where you've got to be very careful, accurate, and tally and cross out the numbers as you go, keeping track. So I'm going to look at my data and I'm going to tally how many scores do I have in the 60s. So scanning my data, and here is one right here. So I'm going to put a little check mark by the 65. And I thought there was another one somewhere. Oh, right here, 68. So, two numbers two tally marks for scores in the 60s. Under frequency, I'm just going to write that down as a number. So I had 2 scores between 60 and 69. Now I'm going to carefully count how many are between 70 and 79. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that looks like it. So 5, I'm going to tally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And how many scores were between 70 and 79? I had 5 scores between 70 and 79. Next, I'm going to carefully tally how many scores did I have between 80 and 89. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I can tally them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The frequency of scores between 80 and 89, 10 scores. Do the same with 90 to 99. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 scores between 90 and 99. And remember, I can look back, I have a check mark next to everything. So I think that I've counted carefully. There were 28 numbers. I could also total up this. That should be 28. 11 and 10 makes 21. And 7 is in fact 28. So I'm confident now that we've got the right frequency table from our data. All right, so let's mark that. Whoops. So frequency table. Okay, that's this thing right here. We just created a frequency table. From this, we can create an actual histogram. That's what we're going to do next. So, histogram, it's a type of a bar graph. So I'm going to make, let's see. So there I'm getting set up for my graph. And this, on the y-axis, that's where I'm going to count how many times that score happens. So I see that I have to go up to 11. So I'm going to count by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And again, this is the frequency or number of times the score happened. Now, along the bottom are my intervals, these right here. And the bars have to be the exact same size, or width, I should say. They're not going to be the same height, but the bars are identical widths, and I know I've got 4 of them. So I am going to make some marks. I'm going to make each bar a width of 3. So there is my bars, and now I'm going to label those bars. This first one is 60 to 69. The next bar is going to be 70 to 79. 80 to 89. And 90 to 99 is the last bar. Now I'm going to make the bars, and the height of the bar is going to be the number of the frequency. So this is what that's going to look like. How many scores, or what was the frequency of scores between 60 and 69? 2 times. So I'm going to use a blue highlighter for this. This bar shows there were 2 scores between 60 and 69. Next interval, 70 to 79. There were 5 scores. So this bar, it's the same width, but it's going to go up to 5. Well, this line is 4, this line is 6, so 5 is going to be right in the middle of that. This bar is going to show that there were 5 scores between 70 and 79. 80 and 89, that's this bar. That's going to go up to 10. So this bar is going to be this bar shows that there were 10 scores between 80 and 89. Last bar, 90 to 99. It happened 11 times. So this line is 10, this line is 12, so it's going to go right halfway, and our last bar. So this is a histogram, okay? So couple of notes about histogram. Number 1, the bars touch. Okay, you can see the bars are all touching each other. So I'm going to write that down over here. The bars touch. If the and we also talked about the intervals must be the same. So I'm going to also write same intervals. So the bars touch, you have the same interval. If you have a frequency of 0. So let's pretend there were no scores between 70 and 79. This was blank and this was a 0. I would still have that interval, but this would, my graph would look like this. This would still be here. I'd have so if this were a 0, this bar and this bar actually would not touch because you'd have an empty bar here. It's really not empty, it just has a height of 0. So there would be no height for that bar, but we wouldn't take it out, we would still leave it. So if there is a frequency of 0, again, for example, pretend there were no scores between 70 and 79, my graph would look like this. Actually, it would look like this. This would still be here, but the height of this bar would be 0. There'd be nothing there. So that's another important thing about if you have a score, or a frequency rather, of 0. Okay, so this is a histogram. So let's get different color here. So a histogram. Frequency table, histogram. You can build a histogram from a frequency table. And so you're going to be working on these today. Making histograms. You're also going to be describing histograms. So what are some things I could say looking at this histogram? Well, one thing I could do is I could figure out, well, how many, if I'm looking at just this, I could figure out, well, how many test scores were there total? This bar is showing me that that's 2 scores. This bar is representing 5 scores. This bar is representing 10 scores, and this one is representing 11 scores. So I could total that up and get 28 total. So something I could say for describing, I could say that there are 28 scores altogether. What else could I use? What else could I describe if this is my histogram on test scores? Well, I could say that the most scores happened between 90 and 99. Okay, this bar is the tallest, so I could also say most scores in the 90 to 99 interval. So these are some descriptive things I could say about this histogram. You also might be asked something like, how many kids scored below 80? Well, we could get that from this. Here's 80 right here. So how many kids scored below 80? That would be it would be this bar and this bar put together. 5 and 2, 7 kids total scored below 80. So that's another thing you're going to be doing today, is looking at histograms and describing what you know from the histogram. One thing I do want to point out is this. So you can see some good visual stuff from a histogram. You can see like how many chunks of scores within intervals, and it's very easy to see where most scores fell. Like on this one, this is the tallest bar. Something that you can't see though from just a histogram compared to the raw data is I don't know what these scores are. I know they're from 70 to 79 and there was 5 of them, but I don't know the actual scores. I just know that there was 5 in this interval. I'd have to go back and look at my data to find out what the actual scores are. I can't get it from this either. I just know that they're from 70 to 79, there was 5 of them. I'd have to go back and find the data, 72, 76, 72. I'd have to go back and find it in the data to see what the actual scores are. So something you don't get is from a histogram are the actual data, but you do get quick visuals and you can describe data within different intervals. Okay, this is what you'll be practicing today, making histograms and solving problems from histograms. Good luck, and I'll see you soon for lesson 3.